One, two, three, four.
Hello and welcome back to Lay It on the Table, the Southern Board Game Podcast with the accent on Southern. I am your occasional host, because I feel like we're only publishing these days occasionally, Joe Mahaffey.
And I'm your semi-occasional co-host, James Englehart. We do what we can, man. It's a busy life.
I know life happens, man, and I feel bad about it because it's one of those things where you want to try to get into that rhythm, but gosh, it's crazy this year, but in a good way.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, I know we got a few things to cover, so why don't we just jump right into it? I had a couple of news and notes. There were two things that really hit my radar since the last time we spoke, which ironically was like a month ago.
Yes, it is true. Yeah.
And first thing I noticed is around Tax Day, the president of Wizards of the Coast submitted or tendered her resignation.
That was surprising. I hadn't even heard that until you brought that to my attention. So, wow.
Cynthia Williams, the former Microsoft executive who joined Wizards of the Coast 2 years ago when Chris Cox moved up into the Hasbro role. And she was there to bring this video game and, micro transactions to the game. And I think what she ended up doing was just bringing a lot of microaggressions. No, it's not fair. But I mean, obviously under her tenure was the OGL debacle,
Yep. I feel like Hasbro misunderstood what needed to happen there.
Yeah, I think so. And I think that, I saw another article today. I probably should have thrown it in here too, that Hasbro is doubling down on the software development for D&D in the guise of PC-based video games, because the Baldur's Gate phenomenon has just been so explosive that they're like, oh yeah, we want some of that too. And I think that they're kind of settling into their rhythm of what they know. Was it Mark Twain that said, write what you know, or Samuel Clemens, I guess?
Yeah.
Something like that. You're the writer. You should know.
So many people say this. It's hard to,
fair. I just said it, in fact.
That's fair. It's good. It's good.
So it could just be that, they've had this amazing success with something called Monopoly Go.
Oh, yeah.
And our friend, Professor Dungeon Master, was supposing on his channel the other day, be on the lookout for D&D Go. It's coming. If you got something, let's milk it. Now with it. No, just kidding. So I thought that was pretty big news. And I thought it was interesting that, she tendered her resignation just in time for the earnings announcement, because the things that they said, and then it was an 11-day notice. She ended on the 26th.
Wow.
So there you have it. So it's pretty
They must have had somebody's ready to go and slotted into guessing.
I haven't heard the announcement of a successor.
Okay.
Doesn't mean that there isn't one. I'd like to see them maybe pick somebody up out of the Wizards of the Coast pedigree.
Out of the gaming? Yeah.
Yeah. Somebody that actually has played the game and loves the game and understands the community.
Yep.
And I understand that it might lean more towards the Magic side in terms of who they would select, but I think Chris Perkins would be a great selection.
Fair. It's fair.
Or even, draw some of the people back that have left under her tenure as well. Sometimes a shakeup like that will bring, good talent back. But I don't know. It's one of those things where, I still think to a degree, the page has been turned a little bit. Although NASA did come out with their own D&D adventure, I saw also in the news.
That's fantastic.
So I don't know what that's about, but there you go.
That'd be fantastic.
The other thing,
more partnerships like that would be super fun.
Yes, let's get NASA on our show.
Guys, I was just thinking, like the Field Museum. Okay, the bones come alive. What do you do? Yeah, no, these are good things.
Wasn't that a movie? No,
you could push it more away from Night at the Museum, and
More into National Treasure. Got it.
I wasn't going to go there either, but there we
Hey,
are.
you know, it's got everything. It's got Masons.
Yeah, man, it did have everything.
Well, and speaking of things that seem to have everything, I don't know. Uh,
Man, yeah. I saw this. I haven't dug too deep into it.
did you get the press release or did you
Oh yes, yes I
did you?
did.
Yeah. So what we're not talking about at the moment, folks, is Stonemaier Games has
Oh
announced
yeah.
Vantage. So Jamie's back to the designing board, and he calls it an open world cooperative roguelike adventure that I think I want to say I read somewhere that it's been like 11 years in the making.
That makes sense.
And you're in a situation where you're put on a planet, but you're not together and you have to find each other, but it's not a campaign game. You can just
I know.
I mean, I'm very curious.
I am too, and I'm wondering what the time stamp on that is going to be.
It says 90 minutes.
Uh-huh. Still interested in what that time is going to
So,
be like.
so this is what it says on the site. Base
Yeah.
game. Base game. 90 minutes in length. 2 minute setup time. 1 to 6
Well,
players. Finally, you can invite that third couple over.
there you go. Yeah.
The third couple, or two thruples, whatever.
I
Uh,
was I was gonna say, yeah, there's keys,
yeah,
just don't go in the fishbowl.
I know. Medium game weight is what they said. So it's going to be very curious to see
Okay.
how that all comes together.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about it. I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued. And the good news
But
is,
and it feels like Jamie likes that kind of space where it's open and you're going and doing stuff. I mean, even so much of his own designs are kind of like that.
well, and I think it's, if you think about what they aspired to with Charterstone, but the reason I didn't buy Charterstone is that
Yeah.
I didn't really want a game that once I was done with it, I'm done. You know,
Right.
and I think this kind of solves that, maybe solves for that. I don't know. But
It's supposed to. I don't know. Yeah.
the good news about it though is that it's going to be a while before it comes out, so we have time to think about it. It's
Yeah.
going to be
And it's
late.
going to be well, right, right. It was going to be like it's too big to do our usual, run up and jump. So it's going to be a slow burn, but it's going to be interesting.
Well, and I think if you go back to our conversation with Jamie, I think it's interesting because he's done the Kickstarter thing,
Right.
and he's done the
Wrote a book anyway on it. Yeah.
right, and then he did the thing where, all right, we're announcing the game, and pre-orders are going to have it on this date, and then the people who pre-ordered are going to get it on this date.
Yep.
This is a much different introduction than that because it's almost like you're going to do it's a Kickstarter without the Kickstarter commitment until the pre-orders are ready.
I know it's interesting to see, and I feel like he is really pushing the kind of marketing structure of how you do, and it's easy. I don't know. He has both the design and the production in hand, right? So it's harder, I'm guessing, if you're Reiner Knizia or, I mean, I guess Czech Games might have this kind of, right, but it's not a lot of people who are like, I have the hands on both sides of the
Right.
business at the same time, and I can make this stuff happen as I want it to. So
Well, part of me wonders if he's also unpacking it this way because it's a new type of gaming experience potentially, and he wants
mhm,
to give people lots of time to warm up to it and follow it and get excited by each little segment of it so that when it is ready for pre-order, he has been
yeah.
able to convey why he did this. I love his
Hmm.
videos on I like this game mechanic, or I like that game mechanic, and you wonder how though that passion finds its way into a game, and now he's trying to get everybody sort of get passionate about it because it's a different take on a game. I don't know. I'm supposing.
No, I think he's been really, really smart about building community and then leveraging that community without feeling like the community is being leveraged, um, and trying to, yeah, build support before he really pushes the button on now we're going to go with it. So
Yeah,
he's,
that,
yeah,
that's fair. So
he's very
I look forward to
strategic about this. Yeah.
I look forward to seeing how it all pans out.
Yeah.
Well, you remember back in the old days when like on NBC TV they would have a very special Blossom?
Oh, they would. Yes.
Yes. Well, today we're going to have a very special lay it on the table
Woohoo.
because our own Dr. James Englehart
I know it's weird.
is doing something very special at Furman University. It's the fly fishing and river conservation.
I am. Yeah. So let's talk
That's
about,
you.
yeah.
That's not you. So explain
No.
this to me. So I want to make sure I understand the MayX or May
Yeah,
experience,
man.
the May experience,
MayX.
Furman University.
Yeah.
MayX. So as a student, I have the option to finish second semester and just go home,
You do?
or I can stay.
Yes.
I get to pay extra for that, or it's built in regardless.
You pay a little bit extra for housing,
Okay.
and a lot of times we have there's a lot of financial support for housing. So, if that's not an easy thing for your family to swing, we can help you out there. But
Gotcha.
yeah, I mean, it's the equivalent of you and I went to what's the name of that school? Wofford College.
Yes, I've heard of that. Yes.
Yes. And so other
Because
people
you like
have Jan
schools,
term. Yeah, they had interim, we had interim.
yep.
And so which was required and built in, and
Right.
MayX is not required, but they have already paid for it. So you
But
don't pay extra for the classes. But yeah, and so you get a chance to, you know, you get you get 2 credit hours instead of 4, and you get to hang out with your professor and try something. And as you remember too, it's something that's not, it's something that your professor is excited about and has some interest in, but maybe that's not where their institutional bread is buttered. They might be interested in water cycles, but they're a biologist, and so they can't really talk about watersheds and fish, but they get a chance to, on the MayX, go do that.
so, folks, in MayX this year, there are almost 40 courses
Mm-hmm.
that include some really cool topics. I already mentioned the fly fishing one,
Yeah.
microbes and food,
Oh,
autism
yeah.
community, coffee
Yep.
culture, sexual revolutions in modern America, and of
Mm-hmm.
course, and of course, barbecue. It's a noun, not a verb.
It is. That is correct.
So you
It's
can
what you
see there's
do.
a lot of things. Tai Chi for performers, how to win at
There's a
fantasy
knitting
football.
one. Yep. Yep.
But yes,
Yeah.
there's.
How to win at fantasy football is kind of fun, right? Let's just do stats, y'all.
Ooh, now see. Oh, look, see podcasting for community building. Can I come down and take this course?
There you go.
I like, and there's Meet the Beatles. I think that's kind of cool.
Yep.
Yeah, it does kind of
And
remind me of that Wofford interim vibe where we had
yep.
everything from fencing to the drama department would do musicals, and you could do a self study. So I
Yep.
think that that's really really cool. But the name of yours is called what?
I know. It's called I never look at the
You know what?
title. I gave it the title
Story.
in.
All right, so I'm sorry. I put you on the
No, no,
spot.
no.
No, no.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What do
Story.
game? I think it's what do games do? Is
What?
the
No, it says here story and meaning in tabletop games.
Yep. That is the
So that's
sort
what
of
it says on
subtitle.
the
Uh,
tin. That better be what they.
okay. Nevertheless, that's what we're doing. Yeah. We're playing tabletop games for the next, month. So, yeah.
And you being the generous guy that you are, you've just brought all the games that you have from home to share with everybody and let let them paw it and get their DNA all over it, right?
I'm gonna do some of that, but also Furman was quite generous, and so I got to take a bunch of Furman money and go buy a stack of games. We've kind of been teasing this last couple
Yeah.
episodes, uh, and so I got the go ahead for the cash. And I thought, I could figure out a way to buy some here, order some there, do this. And then I thought, uh, Tim from Boardwalk is my friend and he comes to game night. I bet if I said, I have this budget, I would like to get, here's a list, he would help me out. So he's been fantastic. I had a big long list, some of which were available, some weren't. And he was great in suggesting, well, if you can't get that, what about this one? So we have a list of, I think, 22, 23 um, tabletop games. So some of these are board games, and some are RPGs that I also want to get to the table for my students to experience games that aren't, although we love D&D dearly, that aren't D&D.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And I'm curious. Well, not curious. I love that story. Well, let me try that again. I'm going to try it again. Here we go.
Yeah, man.
What I love about that story is that you're doing anything about board games, and you
Yep.
model the friendly local game store behavior,
Hmm.
and you bring somebody who is of the community to support a curriculum that is taught at a university that is also in the community.
It was,
I like that.
it felt really good.
Yeah.
It made my life easier. It got them some, cash flow. I had joined, they have a sort of, loyalty program, so I got a little off the top, which was nice. And probably in the end, it was worth my labor and everything else to it felt like this was a good thing. Um, and it was fun because I was like, okay, I'm gonna get this one, I'm gonna get this one. And Tim kept putting them aside. And then I finally said, okay, I've got the money. I'm gonna see you on, I think, like a Friday afternoon. He was like, great. Showed up and he sent, one of the people who was working there is like, go get that box. And the dude couldn't lift the box. He came out shoving this box of games. I'm looking at this thing and it looked like a fine. I was like, oh, here's a box of games. That's cool. And then he started pulling them out to ring them up. And then they kept stacking up and stacking up and stacking up. And it became clear that there was no way you could get them back into just one box enough that you could carry it out. So they brought another box, and then um, Tim's son, who's in my first year writing class, also came out and like he was lifting one of the boxes, and yeah, it was just it was pretty great. And people were gathering around like, well, okay, and Tim was like, I hope you're stocked up on Ziplocs. And, and somebody else was like, and Laura was like, well, you've got to, gonna spend, some time punching games out. And one of the guys at the store was like, yeah, that's gonna suck. Yeah. Like, it took me 10 days, of like working jobs and also, and then like coming home and punching out games and putting them into baggies and
Oh my God.
sorting things out. Yeah, no, it
Yeah, I
was
can't believe you robbed the students of that experience of board gaming.
I know, right? Yeah.
Of,
Um,
get a you know, group
yeah,
think.
like, okay, everybody, here we go. We're gonna put
Outsource it.
well,
That's the word I couldn't think of.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, and so some of the thing that's been pretty funny was like some of these games are very mass market, like Horrified, right? And their punch boards were really thin, and some of them were just over the top thick. So Survive, um, it was an early edition of that, and they've got like 4 or 5 millimeter thick some of the pieces, and you're punching these things. You're like, Mike, I could kill a palmetto bug from 50 steps for this thing. It's amazing. So that was just an interesting thing too, just like the levels of production that some of these games had.
Before we get too deep in the weeds here, I want to
Yeah,
just point
man.
something out to the listeners. So the other amazing thing is the partnership he's got with the boardwalk there in Greenville, South Carolina. Not a sponsor. Um, because I can tell you from just the people that I know in the business, the what we call the profit margin in a board game store is not an easy thing to achieve, because
No.
you're, by the time they pay for the games and the shipping and all of that and how long it stays on their shelves, they're only getting like a 30 to 35%
Yep,
margin
that's
on the
about right.
product. It depends on who the people are and what they'll do. And then if Amazon sells it at a price, if they were to try to match that price, they'd lose money.
Yep.
And so it's a very thin kind of game, which is, a thing where, because the game can sit there on the shelf 10 days, 30
Oh
days,
yeah.
60 days. And so
Go on to clearance. Yeah.
exactly. And so they have to, they're managing through that stock. And then that's why they have things like magic cards that go in and out very quickly, lower margin, but higher volume. Some
Hmm.
places have beer or wine or other kinds of things that tend to be more consumable. And so it's just there's not a lot of wiggle room. And so for this gentleman to partner with you in that way was as much a opportunity for him that was a cool thing.
Oh no, it felt really good on both sides of the equation. And again, he was super fan. Tim is just a great guy. Super fantastic to again have like, well, we can't get this, but have you thought about these two or three others? Because they have a similar kind of vibe. I'm like, oh yeah, no, that's a really great idea. I hadn't thought about that. Let's go with it. So it was a great conversation back and forth, and they're such a fantastic, they've been there for a long time, and they're really a great resource. If anybody's ever, if you're within listening distance and you're through Greenville, stop by. Really great space, really great people who work there. One of my favorites, I was talking to Miles, my former student, who also works there, was like, yeah, they have a Mahjong day, night, I don't know. And so there's this whole side room that's just populated by, you know, older women who play mahjong by the hour. I'm like, that's awesome, right? It's not the like, oh, just kids playing Magic or kids coming for Pokemon night, or it's a really diverse group of people who come through there. So
Well, mahjong cards can be more expensive than magic cards.
well, and I don't think they're playing cards. I think they're playing with the
No, no,
tiles,
no, no, no. What I'm
Oh
saying
yeah.
is that every year, so and there's two types of mahjong. There's Chinese mahjong, or
Yes.
actually there's more than two.
Oh yeah, there's a lot. Yeah.
There's a lot. There's a Japanese variant, but there's traditionally, from our point of view, there's the mahjong that you saw played in Crazy Rich Asians.
Right.
Okay, that's typical
But
Chinese mahjong or Asia Pacific mahjong. But in the United States, it's very much run um, by the synagogues or people associated with the synagogues, and so there's like
yeah.
I don't know if it's a I don't know exactly how you would describe it, but there's an organization that you buy the cards from every year. They're like 50.
Oh,
They're like $50, and those are the rules for that year,
okay.
and that's how it works. I'm probably getting some of that variant wrong,
No worries.
so I apologize to all of our friends out there. But yeah, so the only reason I know this is I bought my wife a mahjong set,
Ah,
and we got the cards, but we also have a friend who's from Singapore, and she
oh
knows
yeah.
how to play mahjong, and so we kind of had both variants. Anyway,
Awesome. Yeah, no, it's a rich, rich game, so it's
yeah.
super fun. But you think of game stores and you tend to think of a different clientele, and that's not it.
No,
And
100%.
and yet it is. And so it just makes me very happy that it's a place that brings all of these people, and the staff are just, yeah, amazing. So I
So
so I got a bunch of stuff here.
yeah, that's kind of where I was gonna go next, because I feel like, folks, we're gonna list every single game he got in the show notes. There,
Yeah.
some of them we've talked about before.
Hmm.
Some of them we'll talk about again. But I'm
Oh
curious, out
yeah.
of the 22, Well, first of all, have you started this class already?
No, it starts Wednesday.
Okay, so you don't really have. So I think in a future episode we want to get some feedback on
Oh
this.
yeah.
Might be a two-parter segment kind of thing. But talk to me about, the way, was there any kind of rhyme and reason in terms of, did you organize them certain ways? Like, this is a engine builder, this is a deck builder, this is, cooperative, or is
Yep.
there anything like that that was part of your curriculum development?
Yeah, a bunch of stuff like that. So some of them were sort of, classics. I've got Pandemic, Catan, Ticket to Ride, and some of these that you're like, yep, ones that if the students haven't played them, they should, just to get a sense of how, contemporary Euros, where they've evolved from. And like if you haven't played those, you have to, right? And I'll bring my own copy of Carcassonne and this kind of stuff.
Got it.
Um, yeah. So, and then some sort of, pandemic to, not everybody plays or has heard of cooperative games. So here's one that's kind of, it's not the first of them, clearly, by a long shot, but it's the one that hit heaviest and really inspired a bunch of, follow through. So great. That's fun. Horrified is also a co-op, different vibe, a
Yep.
little more stuff going on, but yeah, that kind of thing. Um, some others that are, let's see, I'm looking through here. So, like, Abduction is a newest one. This is the one with the little bitty ducks,
Yep.
the big bowl of ducks.
Yes.
It's a silly, silly game, but it's just a puzzle game, right? And if you've never come across a puzzle game, that's a great entry, right? Because it's very basic. It's adorable. I played it with my students last week, and they immediately seized on it. This is for the last classes. MayX starts next week, and I assume that they're going to the MayX students are going to have a great time just coming through that real quick. A little more interesting, sort of puzzly, Sagrada and Azul.
Hmm.
Also very pretty,
Two sides of
but
two sides of a similar coin.
uh-huh, yep. And just seeing, so we'll do a bunch of readings, not too much, but some, and then play these games and play them.
Are the readings you're going to do the rule books?
No, I'm going to do most of the teaching, and then maybe have them, say, if this is a game you're interested in, watch the how to play video, and then come back and we'll figure this out. And we've got other ones that are, the readings are more like, what is a game? What is, are games part of art? What does it mean to play? What's important about play? Um, what do we think is fun? And how do we define that? That kind of stuff. Are there, benefits to playing games? And if so, what are they? So thinking about that,
Now, are
those
you
sorts
going
of
to
things.
show? Are you going to? Have you thought about showing the shut up and sit down video lecture?
I've I did think about that. We've got different readings instead.
I
We
understand.
will watch a little bit about, because one of the segments we're going to do is how to teach a game.
Ah,
Because if you've been playing games for a little while, it's great. Like, okay, but now how do you actually do that so you don't bore the audience? And Shut Up and Sit Down has a great video on, you know, how to teach a game. So we'll do that kind of thing.
have a very big segment in that
Yes.
on patience,
Oh yeah.
because that was something I had to learn.
Oh man. Yeah. So we'll see how that goes. Um, so I've got, a bunch of games like that. And like, have you played a deck builder? I don't know. Let's play Clank.
Mm.
And put that on the table. It's hilarious. I worked through that as a solo, the other day. It's not the, oh, and so one of the things we'll talk about is bad rule books. Oh my
Yeah.
God, Clank. What the hell were you thinking? Um, yeah, it's so simple. It should not have been that difficult. But yeah,
Yeah, you should see that. Have you ever seen the rule book for Santa Monica?
I have not.
Oh,
Really.
yeah, it's bad.
Oof. So, and then some like party games. We've got So Clover, One Night Ultimate Werewolf. Just to say, hey, here are some other, and they probably might have been through that, like Wits and Wagers, Sushi Go Party, which are a little easier, a little more fun. But
Right?
again, what's fun? What do you think about fun? Um, and then thinking about games like, uh, I was looking at Point City, where, that, and I was looking at what's the one I was thinking of? It's a Wonderful World,
Mm,
right? Or like you've got kind of a tableau building thing, and how are they the same and different? And how do you experience these things, even if they're, and how do you, I'm seeing the similarities.
mhm.
I'm interested in what they're going to think about and, weigh and say, yeah, this is good. This is, you know, more interesting than not.
That's
And then
awesome.
I've got yeah, go ahead.
No, no, you're good. Keep going.
And so then I've got a couple of other ones that are more, well, The Rich and the Good is actually a pretty basic stock manipulation game, but you have to give money to charity. And if you're the person at the end of 4 rounds who's given the least money to charity, you just can't win no matter what other money you have.
Oh, wow.
So that's kind of awesome.
Okay.
But otherwise, so and that's kind of a, how do you, what are we teaching with this, right? And then Darwin's Journey, Gutenberg, these are ones that get a little heavier.
Yeah.
And like, how do we think about history? How do we work through history with games? And does that, do you feel like you're working through history when you're doing this, or are you just playing a game, right? And then like This War of Mine, and let's see, and then a couple of the RPGs too, just sort of maybe games aren't always fun, right? Even if they're maybe fun. So This War of Mine and then The Quiet Year are both like these kind of post-apocalyptic. The Quiet Year is more of an RPG, and like, what does that mean to experience that kind of thing? Sign is another RPG that I picked up that's about trying to develop a sign language in like a 2 hour period.
Now, did you buy any dice to go with these RPGs, or are the kids expected to bring their own dice?
Some of them don't have dice.
Some of the role playing games.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They just
Okay.
don't have dice.
Weirdos.
Yeah, I know. The Quiet Year does, and it comes with dice in it, so that's
Okay.
cool.
Okay.
Sign is not a dicey thing at all. It's just a storytelling experience, kind of
Got
experience,
it.
as it were. Dream Askew is about um, what do they call it? Belonging outside of belonging. So you're either on a shtetl or you're in a queer community, and your characters then are trying to figure out how to be in the world outside of the larger world, as it were.
Okay.
Um, and so some games that are just like meant to really push some different kind of thinking. On the other hand, there's also Kobolds Ate My Baby, which is just goofy fun.
Sounds
So
like something I saw in Seinfeld once.
yeah, this may well be.
Oh, wait, that was a dingo. Never mind.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You ate something.
So yeah. So this is kind of a, I mean, it's a whole bunch of stuff just to throw at them. And, we'll have 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the afternoon to sit down and play games, talk about what we've read and process this stuff. And I don't know, we'll see how it goes. This is an entirely speculative adventure on my part. So we'll see at the end of this how it feels and what the next iteration is going to look like.
No, that's awesome, and I really I was excited to see Darwin's Journey on here.
Yeah.
And that's a game we have, and we've enjoyed it, and of course, a Wingspan's on here, and that
Hmm.
we give a lot of airtime to Wingspan on this podcast, so we'll just
Yes.
go on past that.
And I got the new the new edition, which has the paper stuff in it, and so there's no plastic. The Yeah, no, you're looking at me weird, man.
I am.
Yeah. It's all made of like pressed paper materials. It's not it you would not recognize the stuff that it all came in. Like the plastic zips it came in are all recyclable. It's a very different experience.
Interesting. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's all I know is that my crew was when they got theirs open, they were very disappointed. It didn't look like all the stuff I had because I had got all the
Hmm.
knickknacks and such. But yeah, that's awesome. Well, and I
Yeah.
see, I love that you have Ticket to Ride on here. I kind of wonder if you could maybe do a co-op day with the guy with Meet the Beatles.
Right? Yeah. That was a great choice for, I mean, I think, man, 60% of the success of that game is the title.
I know, I know.
It's just, yeah, you're like, oh man, you're right. You cannot protect a title, so Ticket to Ride. Yeah, we're gonna go with it. Zug doesn't really jump off the, yeah.
Well, so you start on Wednesday and it'll go
Yep.
for 3 whole weeks.
Yeah.
And when you're done, they get 2 hours college credit that when they're going for their master's degree, they can try to explain where this 2 hours came from.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice. I like it.
Well, and let's see, they've got to write a short paper and do a presentation, and then they've got like daily journaling to do to say, hey, this is what I thought. This is that I hope will lead into their presentation and their paper.
And
So
they use the
it's
board
all
game
pre-ready.
Geek app for their journaling app.
It's not that way. It's Moodle, but
Uh,
and I also have a link to my game library so they can say, hey, Dr. Engelhart, why don't you bring Twilight Struggle to class? I'm like, yeah, no,
that makes sense.
we're not gonna, no, because I'm not gonna have two y'all over there in the corner all day, just, I mean,
I don't have a
reliving the
I
Cold
don't,
War. I mean, you could, but
I don't have a link to your private library.
oh, it's just, I'm Magister Ludi on Board Game Geek. Y'all can find me there. So yeah,
No, I'm
yeah,
just messing with you. Well, cool.
yeah,
I'm excited to hear how this goes. I think it would be really interesting as we come back, and it'll probably be a couple weeks. I think we're back on the 14th is when we'll record again.
that
Hopefully,
makes good
all
sense. Yeah,
goes
yeah,
well. And if that happens, we can kind of get a midpoint
yeah.
and we can do sort of a post-mortem on the course just to sort of see
How it went.
see
Yeah.
what, yeah, how it went and what the kids got out of it, and you know and I'm curious. Oh, what's that? Do they use there's a social media app. I want to say it's called like Side Chat or something like that.
Something like that. Yeah.
See what they say about that. I'd be curious if you get some screenshots of what's happening there about your class, if anything.
Yeah. Well, and it's been interesting. One, I was talking about, the quality of components, which is less variable than it used to be, but there's the occasional odd one out. The quality of the rule books, still an issue. That's
Um,
that's fascinating. But it's also just fun to like put a game out and like some games take a couple days and some are like, I got it set up, got it running. Oh, and I'm done. Wow. It's a Wonderful World is a quick game.
yeah.
Okay, good to know.
Well, that's one of the struggles I think that we always see in the board game community is that either the rule book is very thick and thorough,
Hmm.
or it leaves a lot of room for interpretation. And Dale and I have been going through that through one of the games we've been playing recently. I'll talk about in a minute, but it's just really hard when there's that level of variability in the games.
Oh yeah.
Well, cool.
And
Well,
it's funny because some of them sort of anticipate what your questions are going to be.
mhm.
And they're like, okay, and you feel like they took notes while testing was going on and then made sure that came up. But then like in Clank, for instance, they're just key questions about like, um, so the dragon cubes, I say you set them aside, and then I do what with them? No, they just stay out. And there's just a phrase of you set them aside and they do not return to the bag. Intello cards, right? Just a couple of just some little things. You're like, oh, okay, because I have questions. So
Yeah,
yeah,
it's easy to get
yep.
confused on certain things.
Well, and it's yeah, and if it's just a gap, and you're like, well, other games do this, some games do that. You clearly, and it's a moment where it seems clear they played the game a million times and they had a great time doing it, and they forgot what a first time player is going to ask.
Mhm.
And you're like, well, okay, it's fine. And
And
there's,
also, I also think where you fall on the BGI index. I just made that up, by the way.
yeah.
That's the board game intelligence index. I'm making this up as I go. I'm coining
Yeah.
this phrase here today. And what I mean by this is, you learn the difference between and or,
Yes.
the markings, and you begin to learn how to read a card, and you use your board game intelligence to
Yep.
discern what this card really means and how you can use it or how it acts. And I think,
Yep.
when you're early on in board gaming, that is not as intuitive as it is later. And
Nope. That's
so
correct.
when I'm
Like there's
teaching,
a hash mark. That means you get one or the other.
right,
Where does it say that? Yeah.
you just know it.
Yep.
It's like, it's like doing math or reading code. You know what these operators are. And I think that when I teach board games, I try to point that out early in the process. Like with a game, and a game like Wingspan
Yeah.
is perfect for that because you have so many elements that you can point to. Um, so I'll be curious to see how, I'm surprised you don't have somebody from the psych department behind some, a mirror, just kind of watching how
Dang.
everybody interacts and take notes. That'd be a good one. That could be that's the hidden May experience.
Oh yeah,
They're being observed. I shouldn't have said that. Now people are going to think they're being.
yeah.
But no, I'll be curious to see how it
Yeah.
evolves and comes around. This is awesome. I'm glad you're getting the opportunity um, to do this.
It'll be fun. And you've got
Well, before we get into what I got, I wanted to speak
okay.
about something. I sent you something the other week, and I'm gonna have it in this recording
Okay.
where I was messing around with a website called Sonu,
Yes.
where I basically created a optional theme. I don't want to call it a new theme because I like our theme,
Yes.
because of our friend that wrote it and all that. So for those of you who listen to this podcast, the music that's at the beginning of the podcast is a song called Pictionary that was written by Chris Keener. I think he had a co-writer on it. I can't say absolutely for sure, but we know that Chris Keener is definitely one of the authors. It's definitely him playing the guitar, and if we had the vocals, you would hear him sing it. But on Sonu, I wrote it's an AI where you can generate music, and I wrote my prompt was to give me a song for a podcast called Lay It on the Table that I could use as like an opening theme in the form of like an 80s new wave sound. And we got one. So we're going to
Oh,
play
we
it.
did.
We're going to play it. At the end of this, it'll be our outro on this particular
All
episode.
right.
So listen for it. I'm going to leave the whole thing on there, and I'm just kind of curious what people think. But did you listen to
Oh, I did. It was super fun.
it? So I haven't really messed with it since then, but I did get a couple of versions of
It
it because they gave you a
felt
couple.
very 80s. That is true. Yeah.
Yeah, I was kind of leaning more towards this early 80s new wave vibe. I think it kind of fell into more of the aha world, which I was still okay
It
with.
did. Yeah, yeah.
Still okay with, but I really wanted something more new ordery.
That's
Anyway,
fair. Yeah, yeah. I would have gone with that. Yeah.
but the thing is you can't use that. You can't say give me a song in the style of Blondie or give me a song in the style of, you know, uh,
Susie and the Banshees.
exactly, because it won't do it. So you have to
Yeah.
you have to start feeding it. So like if you wanted like something from Peter Gabriel, it would have to be give me a song that's the 80s-ish sound that might be a cause related theme with a very strong percussive element. Some you'd have to just start explaining the style of the music. Uh,
Okay.
Peter Gabriel's probably a bad example because none of his
Yeah.
stuff really ever thematically fell in one genre. But
I was gonna say, yeah, that was a tough one.
well, I've also been listening to a podcast.
I want a sort of rock driven, but with a lot of flutes. Okay. Yeah.
That Well, part of the problem here is I've been listening to a podcast called Strong Songs,
Okay.
and if you have never checked it out, check it out. It's in its sixth season. It's been
Wow.
around for a while, and this guy takes a song and breaks it down and actually recreates it as he plays along and shows you the elements of the music. And he does one of the episodes this season is In Your Eyes, and it's changed
Nice.
the world on how I view that song. Anyway,
Okay.
not a board game topic. We'll move on. So my table, since we last got together,
Yeah, man.
obviously we continued to play Let's Go to Japan for a bit,
Awesome.
and then we put it away, and
Okay.
then we pulled out Fairies and Magical Creatures,
Yeah. It's so pretty.
and we loved the element of the game, and it was pretty art. The mechanic is pretty straightforward. It wasn't that
Hmm.
hard to learn. We did watch a couple of watch it played type of videos just to kind of get a feel for it.
Right on.
The thing about it is, I've said many times on this podcast that Dale and I like games that you don't have to be mean to each other to win.
Right.
Unfortunately,
Oh,
you can't avoid that.
fairies are mean?
And they are or mischievous,
Okay.
and so there are cards that when you play it, you take things away from the other person. Take
Okay.
their card, or you can take a card at random, or you can, do certain things that really make that a thing. And
Okay. Well,
so,
that does sound like fairies. That's true.
yeah. So
Okay.
that was a game, but you know what, we enjoyed it very much, and I left one off this list now that I think about it. But before I move on to that one, do you have any questions about the fairies and magical creatures?
Well, no, I was just thinking that, we had a game out a couple of months ago now, and someone was saying, "Oh, I want to do this thing, but it's really kind of a, you know, jerk move." And one of the other people was like, "No, no, it's cool. It's not you, it's the game. The game wants you to do that. It's fine. Do it." But it's still, particularly if you're playing two player, it just feels like, well, I just have to, yeah, take something away, and
Do what you're gonna do.
yeah, but it still doesn't feel good if you don't have an option. So
Yeah,
that
no,
makes
I
sense.
mean, you do have an option. You do have an option whether to play the card. You do have
Yeah,
that
yeah,
option, but whether you play it, how you play it, I don't know. It's one
yeah.
of those things that we just noticed that for the first time in a while, we had this game that kind of forced you to play against the way you like to play.
Yep.
Like you can play Scythe and not be mean to each other.
Yeah.
Don't have to
You
battle. What I
you
mean, maybe you don't
really
have to go to
it's not in
war.
your best interest to battle after a while. Yeah.
Right, exactly. But my point is there's certain games you can
Hmm.
avoid that mechanic if that's what you choose to do.
Hmm.
But I found myself like, well, because a lot of times when we're learning a new game, the way I like to do it is I'll try to play it with different strategies to see what works
Right.
or to see
Yeah,
how it
just
works.
button mashing. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, there are times when, and I'll use Wingspan as the example, where I focus on we're going to fill the top layer of the woods before we do
Sure.
anything else. We're going to try to do that first. Obviously you have to do some things to keep up. There are
Right.
times when I'm like, you know what, I'm just going to keep all the food and no cards and just see what happens. And I've just done
Hmm.
that more, not out of I had bad cards. I just like, I'm curious,
What
what kind
happens
of
if I do
card can
this?
I get
Yeah.
up against? Exactly. So that was part of the game too, because you're really trying to get to a point where you end the game, and there's a lot of cards, there are a lot of
Okay.
elements. You really have There's only a couple of things that trigger the end of the game, so you have to kind of decide how quickly do you want to try to get there.
Oh, that's always interesting too. Like someone like that's one of the things you can do is like, no, I'm just going to push to the end and see what happens. Yeah.
Right. So that's kind of cool. The other game that I finally got into the list here.
Ah,
We had backed this on Kickstarter, like early in the Kickstarter years. So even I think it was before the pandemic we backed this.
okay.
and it's called Bold Made.
And it took that long to get to you?
No, it's been out for a
Oh,
while. It's been
okay.
around for a while. We just finally decided to play it. We were just looking, we're looking around at, things that we need to start playing and do. And this was thoroughly enjoyable. It's old maid, obviously,
Yes,
but
yes.
the designer decided they were tired of this stereotypical trope of the old maid. And
Okay.
so she created, it was I want to say it was a teenage girl, or, it was
Aw.
like a passion project. There is a,
Okay. Yeah.
but anyway,
It's a
she designed,
self-published, it says. Yeah. Here.
yeah, so
Yeah.
she designed this to be bold women. And so you're trying to collect the set of bold women, like there's Supreme Court justices, there are artists, there's
Yeah.
writers, there's scientists, there's astronauts, there's athletes. There's all of these different spectrums where women have succeeded. And that is the set collection that you're going for. And the bold
Awesome.
made card is your wild card
Right.
that you can apply to any of those. And
Nice.
so instead of it being this is how oh, you lose, you got the old maid, it's like, oh no, this is how you
Right,
win.
right, right.
So I mean, there's just a lot of, turning it on its head and giving us a different view of the game. But also it was really intriguing because, like, okay, I got Sandra Day O'Connor. Okay, I'm gonna put her over here. Oh, I got Ruth Bader Ginsburg. All right, I'm gonna put her over here.
Awesome.
I get, who is this person? Never heard of them. Who are they? Let me look them up. And you're learning about, and it's international. It's not just American.
Nice.
So there are women from all over the world that are accomplished in their field, and it takes you down a path of I wonder why they're in here. And
Awesome.
so I thought it was a really cool, and it's a very
Yeah.
small, portable little thing, and yeah, it was fun. It was a good game.
Cute. That's adorable.
The next one that we had on the table came out of we got it via Kickstarter. It arrived before late fall, so I put it in the Christmas stash, and we
Yeah. I've been interested
Christmas.
in this one.
And I got to tell you, it's a great game.
Oh, good.
Yeah, Leaf is the game we're talking about here, folks. Um, it's one of those games that the elements are really nice. The leaves
Mhm.
themselves, the art on the cards are really good. And what you're doing is
Oh, that
you
looks
are
lovely. Yeah.
building out this tableau of leaves, and it's never the same way twice. Depending upon how you put them together, you get to do certain things with the tree that get you points or get you value. You get to grow mushrooms in some instances. Everybody's got their own mushrooms. Um,
Awesome.
you're planting mushrooms. You're not taking mushrooms. That's a different thing.
Oh, okay. All right. Damn it. All right.
So, and you're gathering sun tokens. So it's all in this theme of nature and placement, and the leaves are, different style of leaves, and they
Yeah,
have
yeah.
touch in
Got
certain ways. And it's just a really,
maples and ginkgos and
yeah.
sweet gums and yeah,
And as your sun moves
sassafras.
across the horizon, you get to then, when you cross over like what they call like a frost zone, you get to take the certain set that you have. So if you have like
Ah,
two or three foxes or two or three squirrels or two or three crows, you can only choose one of those sets to bring over, but you get multiple times to bring a set over, and they help you
okay.
with scoring at the end. And
Cool.
it's just an elegant game. It was well designed, and it was beautifully done. And it came with a Kickstarter came with an expansion that we haven't gotten out yet.
Ah, okay.
Um, but we've just been kind of going through the game, and it stayed on our table for a while.
That's fantastic. It looks awesome.
Yeah, so we really enjoyed that. And then the last thing that we have, and it's actually still out there on the table right now, we've had it for
Ah.
2 weeks, is Distilled. And I had backed Distilled a while ago on Kickstarter. It
Right.
arrived, all the pieces
It's
came,
been a while. Yeah.
and it kind of sat there, and we just, we're trying to get the things off the shelf that are in shrink wrap and punch them out and get them out on there. And this one was, so I was talking earlier about the um instruction booklets that leave a little bit of ambiguity.
Yes. Yes, we have. Yes, we had discussed that. Yeah.
So
Hmm.
this game is interesting because you get a card that is your character,
Okay.
and your character could be one of many people. There are a lot of characters in this game from around
Okay.
the world. So like I have been a Scotsman who's makes Scotch whiskey. I have been a pirate
Oh,
um, who makes rum.
okay. That would make,
I've
yeah,
and
that
I've,
would track.
and I've been a woman who makes Kentucky bourbon.
Awesome.
And so whoever your character is, you have a signature recipe and a signature ingredient that you get, but you don't get to use those until you are able to acquire the the secret ingredient. And there's a way you do this. And
Okay.
so what you're doing is there are so many labels. There are in a two-player game, there are four moonshine labels, there are four vodka labels, and then there's two of everything else that's in your flight. And the first flight might have
Okay.
like, brandy, rum, gin, whiskey, kashaka, a couple of Asian variants, you know.
Okay.
And then what you're doing is each round, and there's 7 rounds, you're spending the
Okay.
money that you have, and you get money with your sort of like in viticulture, your mama and your papa give you things,
Oh yeah.
kind of
Okay.
gives you things. So you get a little bit of, you might get a starter yeast, you might get some starter water, you might get some money, you might get a
Ah,
power
okay.
that you get at the beginning of every round.
Okay.
And then you do the first round, which is typically everybody's either going to make moonshine or vodka because
Okay.
you have some basic ingredients that are different types of there's a yeast, and if you take a yeast, it's free, but you get a coin. So that's one way you get money.
Okay.
If you take
Right.
water,
Okay.
that's also free, and you get to look at any of the ingredients that are not turned over. And if you like it, you can buy it. Otherwise, you got to put it at the bottom of the stack. And then,
Interesting.
but you can only take 2 items from the basic ingredients in a round. So
Okay.
once you've taken your 2, you're done there. You can't go. They have other things like um, grain-based sugar, plant-based sugar, or fruit-based sugar.
Okay.
I think grapes, sugarcane, potatoes,
Right.
whatever. And then they
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
barrels or canisters or clay pots that you might need for certain recipes. Because like
Right.
you get to age.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That tracks.
So that's kind of what you're dealing with.
It's all thematic as hell.
So where you run into the issue of the rule book, and that's I had to explain all that
Ah.
to get back to this. You,
Okay.
so the way you distill is you have your yeast, you have your water.
Hmm.
If you got a sugar, you put your sugar in the pot, and for every sugar you get an alcohol card,
Right.
and then you shuffle them together, and then you have them in a stack. You take the top card off and the bottom card off because you take the angel's cut and the devil's cut and you put it back in your pantry. And
Okay.
whatever you have left is what you made. So
Okay.
if you had planned to make vodka, but your sugar got taken out in the devil or angel's cut, then you made moonshine.
Ah. Okay.
And so, but the
Oh,
ambiguity,
that's kind of fun. That actually feels really thematic as well. Like, all right, fingers crossed, this is gonna work. Yeah,
well, but
I'm liking it.
here's the thing: if you only have 2 cards and you have to take out the angel's cut or
Oh,
the devil's cut, what did you
then you
make?
got nothing.
Well, no, I decided that because it was unsaid
Okay.
that it's basically says if you have no sugars whatsoever, you've made moonshine, then you've made moonshine.
Okay.
Because the idea is you made a batch of something, but you took the angel
Right.
devil's cut. You still have a batch,
Of something.
so it'd be have to be moonshine. So that's kind of the logic that I put behind it.
I like it. I like it. Yeah, yeah.
So then you get the label and you begin to cover certain things that get you things like money or your secret ingredient, etc. So it plays over 7 rounds. You have choices of basic ingredients. You have bottles, and part of this is bottle collection because you sell At the end of the distilling process, you sell what you made,
Right.
and you
Of
get
course.
like money for the alcohol. You get points for the what you made. You get a dollar, or you get money for your bottle. You get money for your steel container that they give you to make it in. And then if you want to
Sure.
make whiskey, you have to buy the barrel. And then if you're doing something like that, then you have to put it in your warehouse to age.
Of
So you don't
course.
get any money that time. So you're kind of stuck just doing the moonshine thing or the
Yeah.
vodka thing, depending upon what you've got left over in terms of money, etc. And then every round that it ages, you get to add flavor to it. And they have these flavor
Okay.
cards that give you extra value. And you can leave it in aging all the way to the end. In fact, there's a bonus that if you have a an alcohol that's still in your warehouse that's more than 4 rounds old, you get an extra bonus. There's stuff like that. So once
Okay.
you, so once you sell it, you're doing that around. So they have these whole different bottles, ranging from plastic jug to moonshine bottle. But if you're putting moonshine in it, you get extra bonus points.
Okay. Oh,
Um,
oh, okay. Right there.
yeah, and then you're set collecting at the end, and you get value for the bottles that you have. And then lastly, and where the bottles come from can matter.
Okay.
If you made an Asian drink and you put it in an Asian based bottle, you get extra points, like an
That
accelerant.
again tracks. Yep.
And then lastly, they have at the top they have these upgrades for your distillery, and they can
Awesome.
be everything from machinery to experts, very similar to the viticulture idea,
All right.
that give you discounts or more value. And so it's a thoroughly enjoyable game,
Yeah.
and it's balanced. We've played it a number of times. I think the largest spread between the two of us was maybe 5 points,
Okay.
because there's certain
Yes.
things that surprise you at the end where you're like, oh, and you're playing a game that you really, the only way you're mean to each other is once the labels are gone, you don't get the label.
Ah,
You can still sell it, you just don't get the label, and the label gets you certain things that you want to get the label for. And so it's a very well thought out game. There's a couple of
yeah.
expansions. I already have one of them that came with the Kickstarter. The other one I think has come out since, where they added sort of like in the Wingspan where they keep bringing things from around the world. They added
Right,
drinks
right.
that you might find in Africa in the middle, excuse me, Africa in the Middle East.
Okay. Oh,
So
that's
that,
cool.
and then so you get a whole batch of additional characters, native drinks, the cards, and all that.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So it's a game we've thoroughly enjoyed. Like I said, it's still on the table. We've played it multiple times.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, that's what's been on my table.
That's fantastic. No, it looks lovely.
Oh, and because I bought the Kickstarter version, it actually came with a shot glass,
That's fantastic.
and it came with coasters.
Oh, always good.
And so yeah, so we've had a good time. In fact, I have a Roku gin bottle. Have you ever seen a Roku gin?
I don't
Yeah, it's a
think
Japanese,
so. Oh,
and
okay. That's a no, no,
and the
nope.
bottle's got a beautiful shape to it. So I brought out the bottle of Roku gin, which by the way is empty. We've kept it because it's a beautiful bottle. And I
Oh,
said, okay,
good.
here's our player one marker.
Fantastic.
So yeah, so
That's
that's,
good to have. It's good to have those fun little like things that you can pull out and say like, okay, no, here's our first player marker, just
yeah,
because it's more fun than the yeah.
yeah. So I highly recommend you check it out. Distilled.
Yeah.
I mean, they
It's
have,
been on my list to yeah, for a while, yeah.
so it's a well worthwhile play, and it's thematically it's spot on.
Man, it
I am
sound for
just
everything you were saying, it sounded just like what am I going to do? Nope, it's going to be exactly no, it sounds really, really well thought out.
well, I'm looking forward to playing it with more than just the two of us, because that's the other thing. I'm curious how a game changes when you add
Yeah.
more competition for the resources, and that's another thing. Like with the two-player game, at the end of each round, you take two things off of each segment. So
Okay.
if there's 4 bottles, you take 2 off. If there's 4 premium ingredients, you take 2 off. If there's 4 where upgrades to your distillery, you take 2 off. And then the last 2, you put them in the truck. There's like a delivery,
Okay.
you know. And so the idea is, if you see something on the board you want, you better think about how can I get it before it goes off the board.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
which is also kind of a neat element to the game. So yeah, that's distilled. Um, and then I have backed a couple of things on Kickstarter.
I see that. Yeah.
So the
So
first,
one's for a game we played at Mythicon,
yep, it's the first expansion of For Earth Abundance.
which was huge to begin with, so it's amazing.
Yeah, and
Oh, and they blew past their pledge goals.
yeah,
Wow. All
yeah,
right.
totally blown past it. Um,
Uh-huh.
I did back it. I did not back the deluxe upgrades for Earth though, because I kind of feel like
It's fair.
what I have was pretty deluxe and it fits in the box.
Yeah, yeah. It's fair.
But I did back it. Yeah, looking forward to see how it impacts the game.
Yeah.
And then this other one I just backed like this week. It's called La
It
Fleur.
has very strong obsession vibes, I have to say.
Well, I got so you see it says in the world of botany. And I have
Yes.
we had backed botany. We have it. It's on the table.
Okay.
It's still in the shrink wrap. That was going to be one of the choices. But we
Ah,
chose
okay.
distilled over botany, so we still got to dig into it. But I just looked at this, and the artwork on this was just so
Oh, it's exquisite.
amazing. And and it's published by Duck Summonum, I guess is how you would say that. I don't know. I didn't take Latin.
Yeah.
Is the publisher, but it looks really pretty, and it's still open for 27 days. So I will get this podcast.
Also blew past their goals. I am a little irritated about the lack of an apostrophe in the let's, but what are you going to do?
I'm sorry.
It's
Probably, you
okay.
know what? They didn't. They probably used AI.
No, that is a gorgeous looking game. My God. Um, but it does feel, I mean, it's 18th century kind of, maybe
Well,
17th century vibe here.
yeah, it's got a little bit of that. I think you hit the nail on the head. A little bit of obsession, but it's also got a little
Uh-huh.
bit of Tussie Mussy look to it.
It does in a bit of oh, everybody's got gloves on, so this is very nice. But also Darwin, there's a bit of the vibe there. I mean, Darwin's clearly a little later than these people, but this looks like art, like classic. I don't know how they got the license to get this stuff. Like, I don't know what museum coughed up to let them put this on cards, but man, it's
Maybe
beautiful.
maybe they just fell out of the public domain like Winnie the Pooh.
That's not how that works. If the museum has it, then they can charge you for the likeness. They can, yeah. So I mean, and maybe this is public domain, like pieces that these particular
Yeah,
uh boogaroo that went into the public domain somehow because it the museum just lost control of it somehow. I don't know. Anyway, um, it's this is it's stunning, man. And yeah, so run, don't walk to pick this thing up. Wow. Yeah, that's just gorgeous.
yeah.
And you
They
said so, and you haven't played Botany yet, but it looks like a lot of, I mean, it looks like a solid game. I love the, like, and not just the art on the cards, but the game board itself with, is that London on there? Anyway, yeah. Oh no,
well
Paris. I'm sorry, there it is.
no,
Yeah,
no, yeah,
Paris.
they say that it is the extravagant gardens in Rococo, France. I probably said
Yeah.
you want to correct my pronunciation.
No, no, and yeah, so it's map of Paris from the mid 18th century. Yeah, so there it is.
Yeah, it says build an opulent French chateau and host a fanciful garden party in 18th century.
1750s, baby.
Hey, post Napoleonic.
Yeah. Well, that's stunning. I saw this earlier, looking at your notes, and I was like, man, that is a pretty game and
And
looks just like a lot of fun.
and honestly, I think that's what sucked me in. You know, we love the pretty game.
Oh
And
yeah.
obviously the aesthetic of it. I mean, it's this, I was
Hmm.
like, I don't really want to back another game right now. I've been trying to be more reserved about the games just because of storage and not really
Fair.
sure how to, are there certain games that I want to part with and or not,
Right.
that sort of thing. And so I'm trying to be a bit more practical about, just because it looks like another game that I have, it's probably not as good as the game that I have.
Right.
And so you have to kind of make those choices of the knockoff. It's kind of like the difference of, we talked a little bit about earlier. I have Azul. I don't have Sagrada.
Yep.
And part of the reason I don't have it is I've seen it. I've seen it played. I've played the in-store copy.
Yeah.
It's beautiful, but I kind of feel like I got that covered.
Yeah. No, it's an yeah, it's enough of a vibe. You get either one or the other, it'll be fine. I mean, they're distinct games, and they have like if you feel a little more of a Sudoku challenge, you're probably going to lean into Sagrada. If you feeling a little more, let's all grab in the middle and force people to make choices, you're going to go with Azul. Um, but I'm happy to have both of them because I wasn't paying for them and I can unleash them on my students. And if I feel slightly more one or the other, yeah.
And that's where
But
you
I didn't have to make that choice, which was
that's where you
awesome.
bring in the psych department.
Right, right.
Well,
I have a yeah.
I was just saying, the last thing I got here is got a Kickstarter delivered. It is DM Dave's
Oh, awesome.
Game Master, the 5th edition Game Master Survival Guide by Dave Hamrick. DM Dave. I've used a lot of his adventures. You've played some of his adventures because I've incorporated them in
Yep.
games and didn't tell you. But all kidding aside, but he gives you two things here: the guide to writing 5e adventures, as well as a survival guide, which is just for people who are DM like I do or GM like I do. It's just an extra resource, kind of in the idea of the lazy dungeon, master by sly flourish, and those kinds of things. So,
Yep.
and he's also the guy that did Badge Quest,
Yes.
which I love so much. So that arrived.
Awesome. Have you had a chance to dig in at all, or?
It is still in the shrink wrap, as you can see.
Oh, I can't really. You're very small on my screen right now,
Yeah,
so
I know. It's all good. No, I the box has been sitting here for a couple of days, and I just opened it for this tonight. And I haven't even had a chance because of I've been busy. So,
oh yeah, man. Life is like that. Yeah. It's
but
one of the nice things. One of the things that happens to me, I'm like, I should be doing. Wait a minute. This is a thing that I need to do for my class: is open up these board games and then work through the rules so that I can teach my students. I have to do this.
there you go.
Yeah. It's not a bad feeling.
Well, that's all I got this go round.
Me too.
I look forward to getting back together in a couple of weeks and hearing how the class is going.
Yeah, man.
And
I'm terrified, but I have happy thoughts about it, but still terror at the same time.
you'll be fine.
Yeah.
You'll be fine. All right. Well, yeah, we invite you to follow us at layitonthetable.show. We'd love for you to go to Apple Podcasts or anywhere you get your podcast and maybe give us a rating or a review and some feedback, anything. I don't know. But if you, as you go to layitonthetable.show, you will find where you can listen to us on your favorite podcast devices, if you don't already know. Which I guess if you're already listening to this, that's kind of redundant.
Probably already know. Yeah.
Lay it on the table at Board Game Geek, where you will find that we have a guild and a page where you can also get links to this podcast. And of course, we are on Geek and Southern, the YouTube channel that could. There's a lot of my
is the channel that could.
I don't know. There are a lot of my
there
are a lot of my nerd musings there too. You got to watch out
you
for
do.
that. It's a thing. But with that, I am Joe Mahaffey, and I am not bored. I am board gaming.
Yeah, I'm James Engelhardt, and I hope all your tiebreakers break your way, y'all.
Listen to this outro music and tell us what you think.
Oh my God, yes.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, y'all.
In a world of cardboard and dice, where strategy and fun intertwine, we gather round. connection.